There came 3 men out of the west, their fortunes for to try. And they have sworn a solemn oath John Barleycorn should die. They ploughed him in the earth so deep, put clods upon his head. Then these 3 men, they did conclude that Barleycorn was dead.
In the heart of the southwest of England, the chalk plateau of the Salisbury Plain stretches out over 300 square miles, as far as the eye can see. As you step through this landscape, you're walking in the footsteps of some of our most ancient ancestors. Amesbury, a picturesque thatched town on the southern fringes of the plain, is the oldest continuously occupied settlement in the United Kingdom. But some of the most dramatic evidence of our deep history lies just west of Amesbury. There stands a ring of enormous stones, casting their shadows over the plain. The sheer physicality of the structure is staggering. Each stone is said to weigh around 25 tons. This is Stonehenge, and it's part of the most complex network of Neolithic and Bronze Age monuments in Britain, including over 100 burial mounds.
They hired men with forks and rakes to stab him through the heart, but the carter served him worse than that, for he bound him to a cart.
Stonehenge is one of the most iconic prehistoric sites in the world, if not the most. Even before the construction of the first enclosure on the site some 5,000 years ago, there's evidence for bands of Mesolithic hunter-gatherers in the area. They left their mark on the landscape in the form of huge pine totem poles that were raised near the site. Stonehenge has been through several phases of construction, but the great trilithons, these fantastic stone uprights with this single stone lintel across the top, were erected around about 2500 BC, or 4,500 years ago. This place must have been built for a spiritual purpose. I mean, while awe-inspiring, it serves no obvious practical function in terms of being a house or a defensive structure. It marks the passing of the year and the changing seasons, which would have had a huge significance for the people at the time. Over the centuries, countless myths and legends have grown up around Stonehenge. Geoffrey of Monmouth, writing in the 12th century, tells us that the stones were actually originally from Africa and then transported to Ireland by giants. They were finally moved to their current site through the skill of the wizard Merlin, and were said to have been erected over the graves of British warriors.
The stones here tell their own remarkable story. The larger stones, or sarsens, are made from local sandstone. However, the smaller ones, known as bluestones, were quarried 140 miles away in the Preseli Mountains in Wales. It's astounding to think that these colossal pieces of rock we see today travelled for so many miles.
There are countless theories about the function of Stonehenge, but it's certainly a place of the dead. From the earliest phases, human remains have been buried here, sometimes as cremations and then later as inhumations, where a body itself is buried. It's even been suggested that the stones themselves might represent effigies of the ancestors. This association with the dead is not just limited to the site itself, but it stretches out into the surrounding fields, with monuments to the dead filling the countryside in the form of these fantastic barrow cemeteries. So really Stonehenge must not be looked at outside of this wider context. It exists as part of a huge ritual landscape, and we're finding out more about this landscape every year. And we're even uncovering new monuments. Some of them are on a breathtaking scale, literally dwarfing Stonehenge itself.
In keeping with Stonehenge's rich history of ritual, we've selected the famous song of John Barleycorn. It's a primitive tale, which contains within it the instructions for making beer, told via the murder of a man who personifies the crop of barley. However, Barleycorn's brutal assault also has a deeper meaning. The song charts the corn god's cycle of life, death, transformation, and regeneration, as well as documenting the important role the brew held in the community in centuries past.
There came 3 men out of the west, their fortunes for to try, and they have sworn a solemn oath John Barleycorn should die. They ploughed him in the earth so deep, put clods upon his head. Then these 3 men, they did conclude that Barleycorn was dead. They let him stay a whole fortnight, till rain from heaven did fall. John Barleycorn sprang green blades, which quite amazed them all. They let him stay midsummer, till he grew pale and wan, and Barleycorn had a long grey beard, much like unto a man. They hired men with scythes so sharp to cut him off at the knee. See how they served for Barleycorn, they served him bitterly. They hired men with forks and rakes to stab him through the heart, but the carter served him worse than that, for he bound him